My husband used to be an amazing stepfather to my son. Then we had a baby. And I told myself it was normal. Things shift, people adjust. But the more I watched, the harder it became to ignore something I didn't want to admit. I didn't see it at first. There was a time when I didn't question him. My name is Annie, I am 34. When I met my husband Glenn, my son Zach was only 3 years old. 3 is an age where everything is big. Big feelings, big questions, big attachments. I was careful, not because I didn't trust Glenn. Because I didn't trust anything yet. But Glenn made it easy. He didn't force it, didn't try to be anything. He just showed up. He got down on Zach's level. Literally, sat on the floor, built blocks, let Zach knock them down. Over and over, they played catch in the backyard. Badly, neither of them was good at it. Zach would miss. Glenn would exaggerate his own misses. Make it funny, make it okay. At night, Glenn read him stories. Different voices for every character. Some of them terrible, the kind of accents that shifted halfway through a sentence. Zach loved them anyway. After soccer games, even the ones where Zach mostly ran in the wrong direction, chasing butterflies instead of the ball, Glenn would take him for ice cream. Effort counts, he'd say. And Zach believed him. I watched all of it. Carefully at first, then, less carefully, because it felt real. It didn't feel forced, didn't feel temporary. It felt like I had somehow gotten lucky. The first time Zach called him Dad, it wasn't planned. It just slipped out, natural, unrehearsed. We both heard it. I froze, waiting, my chest tight, breath held. Glenn didn't correct him, didn't make it awkward. He just answered, yeah, buddy, like it had always been that way. That was the moment, the one where I thought, this is it. This is our family. When I told Glenn I was pregnant, he cried, full, happy, overwhelmed. He held me like something fragile. Like this mattered more than anything. Our baby, he kept saying. Our. That word meant everything to me. Zach was excited too, more than I expected. I want a sister, he said immediately. No brothers. I laughed. Why not? They're annoying, he said. I remember sitting on the couch one night, hand on my stomach, Zach curled up next to me, Glenn on the other side, his arm across the back of the couch, and thinking, this is it. Our family is complete. When our daughter Chloe was born, everything felt right. Perfect in that chaotic, sleep-deprived way. Glenn held her for an hour. Didn't move, didn't even shift positions, whispering things to her I couldn't hear. Zach stood next to the bed, on his tiptoes, trying to see. He was patient, excited. Can I hold her? He asked. Glenn didn't look at him. Not yet, buddy, he said. She's too small. Zach nodded. Okay. He stepped back, waited. At first, it was easy to explain away. New baby, no sleep, everything is different. Of course things shift. That's normal. I told myself that, repeated it every time something felt wrong. But then it didn't stop. Glenn stopped asking Zach about his day. Not intentionally. The questions went from, how was school? To nothing. Silence where words used to be. Homework used to be their thing. Sitting at the table, pencils everywhere, eraser shavings on the floor. Glenn pretending to struggle with first grade math. That's hard, he'd say. Are you sure you're not the teacher? Zach would laugh, correct him, proud. That stopped too. Now it was just me, sitting across from Zach, helping him with homework. Glenn would come home, same routine, shoes off, bag down, straight to Chloe, pick her up, hold her close, and then disappear into the nursery. Door half closed, like the rest of the house didn't exist. Zach noticed. He was 6. He'd stand in the hallway, not saying anything, just watching, waiting for something, for Glenn to look up, smile, say his name, something, anything. I'd nudge him gently, go say hi to Dad. Zach wouldn't move. He'd shake his head, small, firm, then turn around and walk back to his room. Quiet, like he already knew something I wasn't ready to admit yet. Like he had already accepted it, and I was the one still pretending. The rules didn't come all at once. They came quietly, one at a time, each one, small, reasonable, if you didn't look too closely. The first time it happened, I almost missed it. Zach had just come home from school. Backpack half open, shoes kicked off near the door, one on its side, the other upside down. He walked straight to Chloe. She was in her bouncer, kicking her legs, making those soft, happy noises that made everything else fade away. Zach smiled, that same open, easy smile he always had around her. He leaned down, gentle, and kissed her on the forehead. Don't kiss her without washing your hands. Glenn's voice cut through the room. Sharp, immediate. That's disgusting. Zach froze, completely still, like he'd done something wrong and didn't understand how. His face changed, like a piece of paper being slowly crushed. He stepped back, didn't say anything, then turned and ran to his room. His footsteps quick and heavy on the stairs. I followed him. He was sitting on his bed, hands in his lap, looking down at his own fingers like they had disappointed him. Hey, I said softly. He didn't look up. Does Dad not love me anymore? The question landed wrong, heavy, too big for a 6-year-old to be asking. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out, because I didn't know what the truth sounded like yet. And lying to him felt worse than silence. The second time, Glenn tried to be better. Or at least, it looked like it. He was holding Chloe, walking around the living room, talking to her in that soft voice he only used with her now. Zach stood nearby, watching, his hands behind his back like he was trying to make himself smaller. Can I hold her? He asked. Glenn hesitated. Just for a second. I saw it. Then, okay. Zach lit up. His whole body seemed to brighten. He moved closer, careful, excited. Glenn lowered Chloe into his arms. But he didn't step back. He hovered, close, too close. Support her head, he said. Zach adjusted, nervous now, his small hands shifting. Don't move too fast. Zach froze again, arms stiff, shoulders tight. Don't jiggle her. Every instruction. Another layer of fear. Another way to get it wrong. Zach looked down at Chloe, then up at Glenn, uncertain, unsure. After maybe 30 seconds, he handed her back. Here. Glenn took her. See, that wasn't so hard, he said. But Zach didn't smile. He didn't ask again. And something in that moment closed inside him. The third time, it was actually good. For a moment, Zach was on the floor with Chloe. She was on a blanket, kicking her feet. He leaned down and blew raspberries on her belly. Soft, playful, and Chloe laughed, not just a little smile. A real laugh. The kind that surprises you and makes everyone in the room stop to listen. Zach lit up. He did it again. She laughed again. For a second, it felt like before. Something natural, easy, like the family I thought we were building. Then Glenn walked in. Stop that right now. Zach pulled back immediately. His hands went to his sides. You're going to hurt her. The room went quiet. Chloe stopped laughing. Zach didn't argue, didn't explain. He just stopped. He pulled his knees toward his chest and looked away. After that, he changed. He stopped asking to hold her. Stopped going up to her. Stopped trying. The space between them grew. Not because he didn't care. Because he learned it wasn't safe. I started noticing where he stood. Not next to her. Not close. Across the room. Watching. Glenn with Chloe. Laughing. Playing. Talking to her in that same soft voice. The same way he used to with Zach. Zach's face didn't show much. And that scared me more than any tears would have. Because it meant something had settled in. Something quiet. Something permanent. He wasn't just stepping back. He was learning. Learning that he wasn't allowed to love his sister the way Glenn did. And no one had said that out loud. But he understood it anyway. A few days later, my mother-in-law Catherine arrived in the afternoon. Bags in both hands. Bright. Excited. She walked straight past Zach. Unintentionally. Like he was furniture. Like he was part of the background. Hi, sweetheart, she said to me. Then, there's my girl, Chloe. She set the bags down. Started pulling things out. Clothes, toys, blankets, a tiny pair of pink shoes that made my chest ache for reasons I couldn't name. All of it small, all of it pink, all of it for Chloe. Zach stood off to the side, watching, waiting, his hands at his sides. Catherine glanced at him. You've gotten so big. That was it. No hug, no smile, no, I missed you. Just an observation. Flat, distant. Zach nodded, like that was enough, like he was used to it. That part hurt more than anything else, the way he didn't expect any more. Catherine picked Chloe up next. She held her close, smiling, talking to her in that soft, exaggerated voice. Oh, I've missed you, she said. Then she leaned in, and kissed her, right next to her mouth. I waited. I didn't say anything. I looked at Glenn. This was his rule, his boundary, the one he enforced without hesitation. With Zach, I waited for it. Don't do that. Wash your hands first. Something, anything. Glenn smiled. That was it. Just smiled. Like nothing was wrong. Like the rule didn't exist. Unless it was Zach. Something in me snapped. Not loud, but sharp. Like a thread finally breaking under too much weight. I walked over, took Chloe gently from Catherine's arms. Held her close. Then I said it. Exactly the way Glenn had said it. Don't kiss the baby like that. I looked straight at Catherine. That's disgusting. The room went still. Catherine froze. Glenn did too. For a second, no one moved. No one spoke. Because this wasn't how it worked. I handed Chloe back to Glenn. Didn't soften it. Didn't explain it. I just left it there. Later, it happened again. Different room. Same feeling. Catherine had Chloe again. This time, she was holding her in a football hold. One arm under her, one hand gripping her side. Swinging her slightly. Back and forth. Too fast. Too loose. Chloe wasn't crying, but she didn't look comfortable either. Her face was tight, confused, like she wasn't sure what was happening. Her little legs kicked, not in play but in uncertainty. I watched for a second. Waiting. Again. Waiting for Glenn. For the same concern. The same caution. The same rules. He said nothing, just stood there with his hands in his pockets. So I stepped in. Stop holding her like that. My voice was calm, but firm. You're being too rough. Catherine turned to me, sharp, immediate. I've had 4 kids, she said. I'm not dumb. I didn't back down. I don't care. The words came out before I could soften them. Stop. A pause. Hands off the baby. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Catherine's face hardened. Glenn looked between us, like he didn't know where to stand. Like he was waiting for someone to tell him which side was safe. But I knew. For the first time in a long time, I knew exactly where I stood. Because this wasn't just about Chloe anymore. And it wasn't just about Catherine. It was about the rules. Who they applied to, and who they didn't. And in that moment, I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. Zach had been the only one following them. And Zach had been the only one punished. Catherine didn't stay long after that. She gathered her things quickly. Her smile was tight, her voice polite, but her eyes, cold, distant. The kind of cold that says you're not family anymore without actually saying it. I'll call you, she said to Glenn. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Zach. Then she left. The door closed, and the silence that followed was different. Glenn turned to me. What was that? He said. No confusion, no curiosity, just accusation. That was so rude. I didn't answer right away. I let the words sit. She's my mom, he said. She was just excited. I looked at him, at the exhaustion, at the defensiveness, at the man I thought I knew. And for the first time, I didn't soften it. I didn't protect him from the truth. She kissed Chloe right next to her mouth. He didn't respond. You told Zach he couldn't give her a forehead kiss. Still nothing. What's the difference? That's where he faltered. Not loudly. Just enough. A shift in his posture, a glance away. It's different, he said. The words came slower now. Less certain. Mom is family. She's careful. Something in me went still. Zach is family too. My voice didn't rise. Didn't shake. Or have you forgotten? Silence. A long one. The clock on the wall ticked. And then, he said it. Quiet, but clear. Zach isn't my son. It didn't feel like words. It felt like impact. Like something inside me had been hurt before I even understood what happened. My chest felt uneasy. My hands went cold. I didn't react right away. I couldn't. Because everything before that moment, every doubt, every hesitation, every late-night conversation I had with myself, suddenly made sense. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't adjustment. It wasn't stress. It was this, right here. Few words that undid years. I took a breath, slow, controlled, because I knew, whatever I said next was going to matter. There was no taking it back. Glenn, I said, I need you to hear me. He didn't interrupt, didn't argue. He just stood there, waiting. Zach has noticed every single time you've pulled away from him. I swallowed. My throat was tight. He asked me if you still love him. That landed. I saw it. The flicker in his eyes. The way his jaw shifted. I didn't know what to say. A pause. I stepped closer. But from now on, things change. He looked at me, not defensive now, not dismissive. Something else. Something softer. More afraid. I am not raising one child who feels loved and another who feels tolerated. The words came clean. No hesitation. No apology. You treat both of our children the same. I held his gaze. Didn't look away, or you don't get to be here for either of them. Silence. Heavy. Final. And then, movement. Not from Glenn. From the doorway. Zach, standing there, holding his stuffed animal, he'd had since he was 2. Watching. His eyes wide. He had heard enough. Not everything, but enough. Glenn saw him, and something in his face broke. Not anger. Not pride. Something softer. Something real. Something that looked like shame. He walked over toward Zach. Hey, buddy. His voice was different, quieter, careful, like he was approaching something fragile. I'm sorry. Zach didn't move, didn't respond, just watched him with those big, uncertain eyes. Can we go get ice cream? Glenn said. Just us. A pause, longer than it should have been. Zach looked at him, then down at his toy, then back up, like he was deciding something, like he was weighing whether to trust again. Then, a small nod. Uncertain. But there. Glenn stood up, held out his hand. Zach hesitated, then took it. They walked out together. I stood there in the doorway, watching them go, not relieved, not convinced, just aware. This wasn't fixed. This wasn't over. A single ice cream run couldn't undo months of distance. But it was something. A beginning. A crack of light. Later that night, the house was quieter. Softer. The way it gets when everyone is too tired. Zach was on the floor. Chloe next to him. On her blanket. He was showing her something. A small toy. A plastic ring with beads that spun. Talking quietly. Like he used to. He leaned down. And kissed her on the forehead. Gentle. Soft. And this time, no one said anything. No correction. No, don't do that. Just silence. The good kind. Zach smiled. Small. But real. And for the first time in months, It felt like something might still be saved.